Once upon a time, there lived a happy married couple and their son. Their son, being the only and youngest child born, had always wanted to be a big brother. The elder children in the village had older siblings, so why could he? So one night he prayed to the gods to bless him with a big brother who's kind, brave, and strong, no matter how tall or short. The next day, the mother and father found a small rice bowl on their table. Looking inside, instead of finding grains of rice, they were both shocked to find a little boy laying inside. A little boy? No, not a little boy, but a young man. A very, very small young man, only 1 inch tall. Their son, however, was overjoyed because his prayers had been answered. He simply didn't care how small his big brother was. He was thankful and loved his sibling. No matter how small he was, the mother and father agreed with their young son to treasure their new gift and named him Ishi-Boshi. For such a small person, Ishi-Boshi was very strong and agile. He had a very mighty appetite, as he ate and ate like a grown man. But not mattered how much Ishi-Boshi ate, he simply could not grow. Poor Ishi-Boshi wished to be taller. He longed to grow big and strong so he could help and provide for his family. One day, while fishing at the river that flowed past their village with his father and younger brother, Ishi-Boshi asked his father, "Where does this river go, father?" "The river goes down to the great valleys of Kyoto," Ishi-Boshi said the father. "It's said to be a wonderful place of riches, but I have never seen it." A place of riches? It was then Ishi-Boshi decided, "Then I shall go there," he tells his father. "I shall bring my family riches. Please help me get there, father." Ishi-Boshi's family knew he was old enough to go on his own, so his father gave him a sewing needle to use as a sword, and his mother gave him a rice bowl to use as a boat, and his younger brother gave him a pair of chopsticks to use as an oar. With that, they waved farewell to their young brave son as he sailed down the river to the great valley. "Be safe, Ishi-Boshi." The voyage took many days and was frightened and pure obstacles. A large fish tried to eat him, and the bowl crashed into rocks, nearly tipping over Ishi-Boshi. Whirlpools would spin him around and around, and a flock of herons would peer hungrily at Ishi-Boshi with their beady eyes. But, underdrained, Ishi-Boshi continued his journey as he bravely paddled and steered his boat with his chopsticks. Ishi-Boshi was determined. He never gave up. After days of sailing across the great river, Ishi-Boshi, at long last, arrived at the great valleys of Kyoto. With great excitement, Ishi-Boshi dismounted from his boat and tried his sword at his side and soared into the lands of Kyoto. He looked for the door of the finest, largest house he could see, until he came upon a beautiful palace with gates, stone walls, and entrance gardens. Being so small, Ishi-Boshi couldn't reach the door, so knocked and shouted loudly as he could. "Hello? Hello! I am looking for work. I wish to make riches." Soon a shogun answered the door and looked around but saw nothing. He was confused until Ishi-Boshi yelled, "Down here!" "What?" The shogun was surprised to see the young man, the size of his thumb. Kneeling down, he picked up Ishi-Boshi for a clearer look. "Well, someone as brave as you can work for me, young man. You shall become one of my restrainers and guard the princess of the palace." This delighted Ishi-Bishi greatly, as he joined the shogun and befriended the princess. One day he escorted the princess to the temple. As they walked along the path in merriment, a giant oni leaped out and grabbed the princess. "Help me, Ishi-Bishi," she screamed. "Hey, let go of the princess," Ishi-Bishi yelled, drawing his sword. The big oni laughed at the size of Ishi-Bishi. "I am big and strong like a mountain, and you're so small and weak like an ant. You'll never win." Just as the oni was about to stomp on Ishi-Bishi and crush him under his foot, the miniature warrior rolled out of the way and leaped, a cry of anger. "I will not let you take her," Ishi-Bishi cried before taking his needle sword and stabbing the oni in his ankles. The oni hissed in pain, but picked Ishi-Bishi up by his hori, and thinking that Ishi-Bishi looked just the right size of a tasty snack, swallowed him whole. The princess sobbed, seeing her friend and beloved get eaten, but Ishi-Bishi wasn't about to give up, and with his sword he stabbed the tongue inside the oni's mouth. The oni hollered in pain, "Ow!" and he choked up Ishi-Bishi and spit him on the ground. Without faltering, Ishi-Bishi attacked the oni, climbing up his leg and onto his head, where then he poked the vile oni in the eye. The oni released the princess and ran away in fear. "Coward!" Ishi-Bishi called out, watching the oni disappear into the forest. Both Ishi-Bishi and the princess stood laughing on the path at the oni's front door, until the princess then noticed something gleaming on the ground. Picking the strange object up, she was surprised to see it was an enchanted golden hammer. "Look, Ishi-Bishi, look! An enchanted hammer!" the princess exclaimed, showing her beloved the golden hammer. "The oni must have dropped it. Do you think it will grant you your wish?" Ishi-Bishi looked at the golden hammer and back at the beautiful princess, and he said, "Let's try it. I would like to be taller." Nodding, the princess waved the golden hammer and chanted, "Grow, Ishi-Bishi, grow," and lightly bonked Ishi-Bishi on the head with the golden hammer. Before her eyes, Ishi-Bishi suddenly grew into a tall and, of course, very handsome young man. As far as any samurai she had seen before, he was good-looking. The two immediately fell in love, and many months later, they were married and had many children. Ishi-Bishi awarded as a great hero in the great valley of Kyoto, and was given many, many riches, until he was very wealthy. He returned to his family, who were overjoyed to see him and were very proud of Ishi-Bishi. Throughout his entire life, Ishi-Bishi remained just as kind, brave, and strong, just as he had been when he was 1 inch high. And together, with his wife and family, Ishi-Bishi lived happily ever after. The end. You closed the storybook and glanced down to see Tayu fast asleep in your lap. You smiled warmly at your baby and gently caressed his little head of flame-colored tendrils, marveling over how resemblant Kojiro was so much. Speaking of Kojiro, you hadn't been able to fall back asleep because you had been constantly worrying about him ever since he'd left, so much so that you hadn't eaten breakfast, said anything all today, or hadn't been able to focus on your work at the butterfly estate. You were like a zombie. Shinobu had given you the rest of the day off, so you can relax and tend to your baby. You'd spent the majority of the day visiting and speaking with Kayaka, since you needed at least someone to talk to in order to ease your troubling mind. The corners of your lips upturned, remembering the conversation with the blind man. You adored his wise musings. "Kocho-chan tells me that your tea brewing has improved. The last time I heard, she seemed displeased." Kayaka chuckled. Well, you sheepishly began. "Yes, I've been practicing a lot. I'm good at making lavender, strawberry, and ginseng tea," you clarified with a light laughter. I can even brew you up a cup of Oba-chan's famous sakura tea if you like, Aniki, you tell him. That would be wonderful, Yin-chan. Kayaka smiles in delight. Though I have to admit, I do often find myself growing tired of receiving tea that smells and tastes unpleasant. Despite it's for the sake of my health, it's most certain makes me feel as though I'm not worthy of such supplements, he added. It would be nice to try something sweet for a chance, even if it's just for a little while. He courses. It was wonderful to hear him laugh that you found yourself laughing along, too. Kayaka had this order to him that always made you feel comfortable, whether though a gentle smile or just the warmth in his eyes. He had a natural talent for insisting of this sense of comfort and tranquility in others. And Jasmine, you asked? Would be delightful. Then I'll brew you a cup later. An inky silence soon befell the two of you comfortably as you glanced over at Lady Umai, who was cradling Tayu in her arms, while her children, Hanaka, Nichika, and Kurika-kun, watched. You smiled, but soon frowned as you averted your eyes to the courtyard and towards the vast forest that surrounded the Udrishiki manor. Do you think Kojiro is... You began hesitantly, the weight of uncertainty hanging heavy in the air as your voice wavered, hitting the deep concern etched on your face. Alive? Kayaka gently commented, his presence a growing force amidst the swirling doubts that clouded your thoughts. Your eyes briefly flickered away from him, averting to the unspoken fear that lingered within. Yes, he finally confessed, the word a whisper, plead, and hope in the face of certainty. Even though his sight and his gaze met no physical form, Kayaka discerned the undying tranquil in your words, recognizing the unspoken desire for ensuredness in the darkness that surrounded Kojiro's fate. I believe in him. Countless of times Kojiro has proven himself to be a man of unbenevolent will, Kayaka affirmed, his resolution a beacon of faith in the faith and resolve of the one you feared for. Do you think of him gone? He will be okay, right? You inquired tremorly, the inner strength in your voice murmuring with doubt as you sought solace in Kayaka's calm demeanor. Your gaze now fixed on his weathered conditions, slightly implored of a glimpse of reassurance amidst the uncertainty that threatened to overwhelm your heart. You couldn't care if it was a lie. The yearning reassurance within you was so overpowering that the truth just became a distant concern. All you wanted was to feel the comforting words wash over you, even if it was fabricated. I believe in him, Yin-chan, he repeated, and you nodded slightly. Have faith is what he had told you that evening. The warmth in those reassuring words was like a veil in your anxious heart, soothing the doubts and fears that plagued your mind. Afterwards, you were invited by both Oba-chan and Senjiro, who had brought you some food. Indeed, they could tell you felt complete garbage without your husband. You could only hope Kojiro was doing all right in his mission and was safe and sound. You slightly prayed that he wouldn't encounter any upper moon tonight. It always ate away at you to know that there were demons far more dangerous and victorious than the demons you've encountered in your life. Both Hanazuka and Satsujin were, as you learn, nothing but scums at the bottom of the barrel, despite coming off as intimidating, and were no near as powerful as the upper moons. Kojiro was able to defeat them with ease, so the thought of him encountering an upper moon only made you even more worried, if not frightened. Wordlessly, you pinched the bridge of your nose to stop yourself from thinking about it and not worry yourself sick, but it only did so little. And you had no way of certainty he's really not unless you send a Kasakai Crow, since you knew Fuwa wouldn't be able to travel that far. Fuck. You wish you should have went with him on that mission. You could only hope that he could come home soon and unharmed. You snapped out of your line of thinking at Tayu crewing his... Oh, crawling. It says crewing. Crawling in... Oh, crewing in his sleep as he gave the tiniest twitch. You smiled again before getting up from your rocking chair and putting him in his crib. Once done, you decided to fix yourself a little late-night snack. Maybe a nice warm meal will help ease your mind. As you crossed the living room to get to the kitchen, your mind tripped over the table, but only managed to bump it. Crash. Oh. You immediately looked to see what you had accidentally knocked over. Oh. You're surprised to see a picture frame on the floor. You knelt down carefully, picking it up, and looked to see it's your and Kojiro's wedding day photo. Kojiro's golden eyes shone happily in the photo, and his lips separated into a joyous smile, with you by his side. Ironically, the glass had cracked over Kojiro's person, and you felt your heart clench. You couldn't help but think of this as a bad omen, yet you really hoped it wasn't. Terrified, you began imagining worst-case scenarios. Was Kojiro dead? No, please. He couldn't be dead. This... the Flame Hashira we're talking about. There's just no possibility. He's... Tears slipped from your eyes, away from your held the picture against your chest. Ko... Please... be okay. Tears roll down your cheek.